for people to come and hang out, have AA meetings, NA meetings. We now have certified recovery coaches who they're certified through 48 states, and they go through extensive training. Their peers in recoveries are allies that help other individuals that are struggling with substance use disorder. That's one new service we started offering about 3 years ago. We also are on call 24 hours a day in the emergency room at Southwestern Vermont Medical Center. So if somebody has an overdose, is involved, let's say in some type of alcohol incident, we get paged, we're on call 24 hours a day, and we respond to the emergency room, and we try and engage those individuals from where they're at. So day one, somebody might not be ready to say, yes, I have a problem. But day one, somebody might listen to you and think, this person has no idea, but a year later they might remember you. So we try and be just a non-judgmental, we use non-stigmatizing language. We're just people that care about our community, we care about people, and we try and make people comfortable, and people that are ready to go to treatment will go to the ends of the earth literally to get them there. Vermont's a great state, but we're losing resources as we're gaining resources. And what I mean by that is we don't have a lot of treatment facilities. And in 1 week at the Turning Point Center, we can have anywhere from 5 people asking to go to treatment to 2 weeks ago, we had 71 people asked to go to inpatient treatment.
In 1 week?
In 1 week.
Whoa.
So we don't have 71 beds.
Yeah.
Valley Vista and Bradford has a great program. They also have a women's program in Virgins, but they've closed their women's unit in Bradford. It's now just men. There's also Serenity House, which is in Wallingford, another great program. That is a co-ed program, but they're separated. They just program together and then live slightly separate. But we do need more inpatient treatment beds in Vermont. It's something that we're sending people out of state. If you have private insurance, we're able to get you in almost anywhere in the country with a large deductible. And we work with families on payment plans for the deductibles. So we kind of bridge the gap. So we try and work with the insurance company, with the treatment center, and with the individual on a payment plan for the co-pays. We try and take all the stress and barriers away from going into inpatient as we can for people. We try and explain. We go tour the facilities as if we were a guest ourselves there, so we know what people can expect, what they can bring. This is a time of high anxiety for people. We try and reassure them. Family members, we give out Narcan for free at our center. So anybody that's interested in being trained on how to use Narcan, which is an opioid reversal drug that's used intranasally, we can give. We work with families on how to use non-stigmatizing language and how they talk to and community members, friends, family, community members, on how to use non-stigmatizing language to show somebody that they care and that they're not judging them for needing treatment or needing services. Some of the words we used to use, like addict, we no longer use. There's no difference in having substance use disorder and having diabetes. They're both disorders that are medical conditions that are protected under the Family Leave Act and HIPAA. And we want people to realize that it's not something that anybody asks for. There's usually a genetic component, and you're predisposed, just like you are to many other diseases in life. And the sooner that we can reach people with hope, education, and love, the sooner that person can begin living a life they want to live. People don't become addicted and stay addicted and do things in addiction because they feel good about that. They're doing it literally to just survive. And in addiction, people do things, and the more that they do things and the more they break down barriers they never thought they would break, the more they have to use to forget what they just did, because they're not happy about it. I think a lot of times the community gets frustrated with people that have issues with substance use disorder. Crimes are committed, different things happen. But if you're a family member of somebody that has substance use disorder and you knew them pre-substance use disorder, you would know that they're Jekyll and Hyde. They're two different people. One is a diseased person who's clinically insane, cannot sign an affidavit, cannot drive a vehicle, cannot make legal consent for anything. I'm not saying they shouldn't be responsible, because I do believe people should give back. People, should be responsible for different things that they do, but I do want you to know that those individuals aren't the actual person that they are. They're a person that's afflicted by a deadly disease that, to me, was a pandemic before COVID. This year, our overdose, our mortality rates are unbelievable. Bennington County is the third highest death rate in the state. And we've increased 1,025% of our harm reduction efforts. So we go to People's Park, we went door to door to hotels during the pandemic, handing out Narcan information. I just was at a meeting this morning where drugs are coming in through the mail. We've known this for a while, since the whole Silk Road epidemic years ago. But there are so many of them that we had a 15-year-old in Manchester overdose the first time they tried marijuana because it was laced with fentanyl.
Jesus.
So fentanyl is in everything. I think if you look at the statistics right now, 1 or 2 of the opioid fatalities is not fentanyl related, but we were at 100% until maybe a few weeks ago.
Why are they lacing everything with fentanyl?
Because it's addictive. So you create a customer base of, oh, well, I need this marijuana to get out of bed in the morning. And it's not something that's controlled, like a drug company can control and monitor what they're putting in.
Mm-hmm.
They're literally taking, so carfentanil, the grain of assault, will kill an elephant. It's Narcan resistant, so you're seeing people that need Narcan more than one dose. 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times. And we're losing, community members by just economic proportions, just huge amounts of loss. I think, and now there's also the meeting I was at this morning was talking about people that are addicted to anti-anxiety meds and ADHD meds are being sold on the internet, but they're actually fentanyl, and 1 out of 3 is deadly. That's the new DEA statistics. They did a bust of, I should have brought it with me, I don't know how many pills, but 1 in 3 were deadly. And we see this in Bennington County. A lot of our fatalities aren't people that are IV heroin users. They're people that bought a Xanax or a Percocet 30 from a friend of a friend of a friend, and they don't wake up. A lot of people hide, substance use disorder from their families for a long period of time. We used to use the term, working alcoholic or sustainable addict, and there are thousands of people, tens of thousands of people in the state that are able to do that for so long. So we encourage everyone to come to Turning Point or call Turning Point and know what some of the warning signs are for substance use. Obviously, missing money, mismanagement of money, appearance, weight loss, those kind of things are things that we see typically, but there are also some really subtle behavioral changes, kind of like people not making eye contact with you, where people, avoidance, people distancing themselves. The opposite of addiction is connection. And we can also work on the language to use if you have somebody or you know somebody that you want to help. I always think of, there's a picture of a set of steps where half of the steps are shoveled and the other is really, really high, and nobody shoveled those steps. And I don't ever want to be the neighbor whose steps aren't shoveled. I always want to be the neighbor who's, making sure my neighbor is okay and that my community members are okay. So it's a tough conversation to have with people. It's tough to talk about. It's tough for people with substance use disorder to admit to other people, because for so long people were seen as somebody living under a mattress under a bridge, or wildly reckless. But I can guarantee you there's probably several people that are struggling with substance use disorder that have great jobs, have families, look like it's all together, and they feel like they're on the brink of things falling apart. I know I didn't think that this was going to be my career. I didn't think, I never really thought, I want to be the director of Turning Point Center, but I'm definitely grateful to be invited to opportunities like this and to speak as much as I can, and to help people as much as I can. This is a community problem. It's not, I don't think there's anybody who doesn't know somebody who's been affected by the death or the use of alcohol or drugs close to them. There was a time when it was distance. When I grew up, I knew nobody, well, I shouldn't say that. I knew nobody, it was normal. It was typical, I don't like the word normal. It was typical to go out to a lunch function, and my dad was in finance, and he would bring people out to lunch and they would drink, get pretty drunk at lunch and go back to work, right? Drive back to work. And that was, okay, come home, have a scotch and soda every day. And that was, that was his routine. It's not up to me to say if my dad was an alcoholic, but he did die of liver disease. During COVID, our taxes of alcohol sales went up by 700%. I know that I've gotten phone calls from others last year when kids were doing the Chromebook, and they're like, listen, I'm drinking at 11 because these kids are driving me crazy, and if I drink a couple glasses of wine or I take 2 shots of vodka, I can deal with them. Am I an alcoholic? I think there's plenty of people that can drink and have no issue. There's plenty of people that can take prescription pain medications and have no long-term lasting effects. But there are some of them like me who can't. And I'm okay with that. But on my worst day, everything's good. I get calls every day from family members wondering if their daughter's gonna come home alive. Will they wake up to knowing where their children are sleeping, or, where their niece is, or, I stopped going to funerals because, Facebook is more like an obituary. Maybe it's the people I know or the people that I'm friends with on Facebook, but to me it's a lot of sad news. So we're here to support anyone, and that includes people that are allies in the fight against substance use disorder. So if you have any time, feel free to give us a call. Stop in on Main Street. I don't know if you have any questions for me. But that's kind of my... Oh, one other thing before I say. Another thing that we started a year ago and has had remarkable success is we are part of the Opiate Response team. So we're on call also 24 hours a day for opiate overdoses. So when the police get called to an opiate overdose, we get paged to the scene of the overdose to try and help get the person into treatment. Excuse me, not COVID. So we try and get that person into treatment. Honestly, that person doesn't usually want to go. They usually want to have nothing to do with us. They want to run as fast as they can away from us. But the 5 to 10 people that just saw that person die and come back to life are begging for help. So it's been extremely successful in a way we didn't think it would be. We thought, oh, they just died, they're gonna wanna help, you know, they're gonna be ready, they're gonna see, you know, they're gonna see the value of their life. But usually it's the bystanders that called 911, that had to do rescue breathing, that had to give Narcan, that had to, you know, pick up children and remove them from a dying parent, that receive treatment and are now in long-term recovery. So we're on call for that 24 hours a day. And this isn't a job that my coaches get paid a lot of money. They get paid $50 for a 12-hour period. This is a group of people that, you know, we do this on partial fund from a donation from the hospital and money that we collect through the year from private donations. People don't get rich off doing that job, but they're out there saving people's lives 24 hours a day, and they do a really good job of it. So that's another program that we started, and then we've been in the emergency room for about 3 years, and we've helped a little over 3,000 people.
Wow.
Just in the emergency department. And now we have parents and children that are in recovery together since I've started working there, which is really an amazing, something amazing to watch. And we also do a lot of education and prevention with parents, and that because we know they're predisposed to substance use of some kind. Just because a parent might have an issue with alcohol and a child might have an issue with gambling, it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact same thing. So we do a lot of prevention work with family members of people that identify as having addictive behavior.
So
With any
you
questions?
said prevention work. What would be involved in prevention work?
So prevention work, we have family recovery coaches, and they'll sit down with a family and talk about how to talk to their kids about drugs and alcohol, especially if they are predisposed to having the genetic key component. We go all around town handing out harm reduction bags, which have Narcan, CPR face masks, chapstick, because you can actually pass hepatitis from having chapped lips, hepatitis C. They have information about syringe exchange, information about how to seek treatment, and they have a handwritten note from a recovery coach in each bag with a phone number to call any time of the day to receive help. So those are some of the things we do for prevention. It gets sticky when we're working with anybody 16 or under, because in the state we have to have parental consent. And another organization works in the schools, so we work prevention in the town, like going to door hotel wise. We go door to door on certain streets that there's a lot of drug activity at, and hand out Narcan. We have Narcan locations in different housing areas. We do a lot of prevention work with people that are getting older, because medications and alcohol start to affect the body differently at different ages. We do work with primary care providers so that we can reach individuals from referral from a primary care provider. So we go out and do kind of these kind of things with primary care providers, explaining what our services are. Thinking of other prevention, we testify in front of the state legislature to try and get funds allocated. We're going to be opening a sober living house for men in end of December, beginning of January. So we'll have an 8-bed facility, a safe place where people will be routinely monitored for. Basically, it's a house with rules where people can learn to live life on life's terms again. They can stay there 6 to 18 months, and somebody lives in the house. There's 2 house managers, and they take turns. It's not babysitting, because we want people to be able to come back into the community and realize, you know, yes, there's drugs for sale on the street, but I don't want the drugs on the street. I want this life, and rebuild their life where they came from. We want our community to come back to their community and live in their community and give back to their community. So this house will help people follow very strict rules, and they'll move from one side to another side to an independent apartment, so it's an 18-month process. And they'll be guided by recovery coaches, drug and alcohol counselors, independent physicians, a whole treatment staff comprised of about 15 people per individual to help ensure the success of the individuals within the house and also the success of the program in the community. So, yeah.
It's certainly, I understand, the drug dealers who are trying to create customers, but they're of course killing their customers. And I guess my question is, where are the drugs coming from? But also, are most of these people addicted to the opioids? Are they starting as a prescription, or are they getting it on the streets first?
So most people start through prescription medication. It doesn't necessarily start as an opioid prescription. It could start as a child as an ADHD medication. And that unlocked that key that all of a sudden, when they become older, there's something called a farm party. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they throw a whole bunch of pills in a hat, in a bucket, and whatever. And I did it in college. You stick your hand in the bucket, you take whatever it is, you have no idea what you're taking, but that's supposed to be fun. And so, yes, usually it is by prescription medication, but not necessarily opiates. Opiates was when OxyContin came out, and Purdue, when we had the settlement with Purdue, and drugs were being overprescribed.
Yes.
Opiates was, but now we're giving 4-year-olds ADHD medication.
Do they understand, these physicians, what this can mean?
I'll tell you that I got 5 phone calls yesterday of people complaining that CVS was out of ADHD medication. And I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do about that. But to me, for a pharmacy in our town to run out of an ADHD medication,
Yeah.
there are so many alternatives to dealing with hyperactivity, to depression, to anxiety. If you need medication, I'm not somebody to say don't take it, but I believe non-habit forming medication should be tried before habit forming medication. And let's face it, our kids are not okay today. They're living behind a screen. They're disconnected, which again, the definition of addiction is disconnection. They're disconnected emotionally, socially, spiritually from the world around them. And we've taken them out of school for 1.5 years. We put them back, pulled them back. We've, done all these things. So to answer the question, yes, prescription medication is the leading cause, but not opiates. What I'm worried about is we see these huge rises right now in the numbers. And to talk about the deaths, you're right. A person becomes so ill, so violently ill from not taking opiates that they'll pretty much, I've known people that have cut a finger off so they can get pain prescriptions at our hospital. We now have a program at the hospital where people can go and receive medication for detox instantly. So if they have not used an opiate in 12 to 18 hours, they get scored. It's called an opiate withdrawal score, COW score. And they can be put on another highly addictive prescription called buprenorphine, Suboxone, but they'll live. So some people say, oh, you're trading one for another. I can tell you I've seen people just detox with buprenorphine. I've seen people stay alive for 20 years taking buprenorphine. And to me, I think what's important is what that individual needs to be a successful community member, a parent, a sister, a brother, a mother, a father, whatever works for them. And, they just came out, well, they didn't just come out, but they've had Wellbutrin out for years for multiple things. And there's huge research right now that it works with people that have issues with overindulging and eating, like binge eating. It also works for cocaine and crack cocaine because it helps the reward center. So something as simple as going to a primary care doctor with help and support from family or a peer recovery coach or an advocate in the community. Somebody who's addicted to crack cocaine could take a prescription for Wellbutrin and not have the urge to use cocaine as strongly. So recovery only works, you don't just take a pill and it's over. Recovery only works if you're actively working towards being a good person, being transparent and honest and being the best version of yourself, always choosing the right way. But that's doing a lot for people with cocaine addiction. And we don't hear about it a lot, but that has got a lot of, there's a lot of studies being done on it now, and I know that people in our community that are taking it as long as they're working on a plan of recovery. I've seen people, that had nothing, had their children literally taken in the hospital room while I was there, children removed, to having their own place now. Those children, are back and they're doing well. They have cars, they have jobs, they are successful, they're in college. Myself, I'm a person in long-term recovery. I have 2 wonderful children. One is I have a daughter with autism who does not speak. She's nonverbal. And I have a son who wishes he had a sister that could talk. So it's a kind of a high-stress home life, quite a bit. But I own my own house. I own my own car. I own chickens.
The wild ones.
Yes. I have a great life today, and that's I believe partially from giving back to my community, but also I'll be the voice for somebody who needs to be heard, and I don't have any shame in being it. And I just hope more of our community can look past the behavior, not saying don't hold them accountable, but trying to advocate for services and just let somebody know that you're a good person. I'm a good person, I'm trustworthy, I don't know all the answers, and I'll tell people that myself. But I believe anybody can overcome addiction. You're chemically insane when you're on drugs. Chemically insane. So take the drugs away, have some, there's plenty of outpatient resources available, and people recover every day. I think it's about 12,000 Vermonters a year join recovery. I wish we had 24,000 next year, So thank you for inviting me. I don't know if you have any other questions.
Can you give us some examples of harmful language that we may use without even realizing it, and some switches?
Sure. So like alcoholic. We don't use, we say somebody has substance use disorder, alcohol specific. So one of the ways to reduce stigma we found is it's a medical disease, so we've replaced it with medical language. Another one is addict. It's somebody that suffers from opiate use disorder, cocaine use disorder. If they have more than one drug of choice, it's polysubstance use disorder. What else? Addict and alcoholic are the most shaming, kind of degrading. It's okay for me to call myself an addict, but
right.
It's shameful, and it's not shameful to me. But I don't see myself as an addict. I'm a person in recovery. I'm a mother. I'm not one thing. And I think that's what people in early recovery need to know, is that, okay, you have addiction issues. So did I, big deal. We can fix it. And that's true for anybody. A lot of times people that have substance use disorder and the people that we are stigmatizing have had really severe trauma in their childhood, especially sexual violence against them. They've witnessed sexual violence against somebody close to them. So this is a traumatized, not always, I wasn't, I had a great life. I really did. I had a great life. I still do. But a lot of times it's people that are traumatized trying to escape trauma of some sort. Mine was just trying to be perfect, trying to find perfection somehow in the parts of me that I didn't like instead of working on them. You know, going back to school and getting my master's degree, helping other people instead of wanting to help and not having the self-esteem to help. So I'm trying to think of some other words. There's so many of them. And I'm just drawing a blank. Can you think of a word that you think might be stigmatizing and I can tell you if it is or isn't?
No, I liked the way you said it, that it's like, instead of alcoholic, it's like person first. So it's like a person
Yes.
with alcohol addiction,
Right.
a person struggling with alcohol.
And I tell people, right, we're on this road, we call it the road to recovery for a reason. Because in life, like, we're not born with an instruction manual. Nobody knows what to do with us, right? My first kid, I'm like, baby powder, cornstarch, I don't know what to do. But we're always on this path, and sometimes we get stuck on a cul-de-sac. Maybe we're on that cul-de-sac for 5 years doing the same dumb thing, same wrong turn. At some point, we can get off the cul-de-sac and never see those houses again. We just have to make an active choice to do it, and there's somebody like me that's willing to help them do it. And that's all it is. And it sounds so simple, but to a person who's under the influence of these, you know, we have crystal meth in Bennington being sold as crack cocaine. And that's much, the rate of addiction is much higher. So you see, it's kind of like taking a prescription amphetamine and comparing it to cocaine, right? One is kind of, they're both harmful, but one is one is stronger, more potent, and the risk of long-term use is greater. The question earlier about why would they kill off people? They're creating a customer base who's going to bring them more customers. So if they kill 1 in 3, they're getting 20 more from the 1 and 2, and it's horrible. It's just sickening. But we need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and standing up for what we actually believe in and what we know, and offering to help without enabling people. I'm not going to give, you know, my neighbor $100, but I'll help him shovel his driveway, you know.
Well, Julia, thank you so much for coming to talk to
You're
us.
welcome.
This is really